John Lewis, Assistant Principal at Central Middle High School.
Amanda Hulett, Director of Student Services.
Megan, Principal, Central Elementary School.
Chad Blair, School Board.
Linda Tanner, School Board.
Louise Spear, School Board.
Louise Lazat, School Board.
Ed Anderson, School Board.
Russ Wilton, Superintendent.
Kelly Russell, Business Administrator.
If we could stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We will start off looking for a approval of the school board meeting minutes of August 2025 school board meeting.
I make a motion to approve the minutes of the last May school board meeting.
Anybody see anything of concern after reviewing those? See nothing, all those in favor? Agenda review.
Agenda looks good to go.
Public forum in accordance with policy BEDH. Anybody here from the public like to speak tonight? Seeing none, we'll move on. School updates, student representatives, will not here yet. And SCES.
Good evening. So last weekend, this week at SCS, there's been an emphasis on learning routines and structures for the day at school. We had our first school assembly last Thursday where we introduced staff, we did a read aloud, and we celebrated a recognition that we're quite proud of. So we were recognized for competing in the Fisher Cats Reading Challenge that took place last spring, and it was presented by Eversource, and we were among the top 5 schools in the state for participation in the Reading Challenge. So Jessica White was at a game and represented our school and received our prize check for $1,000. So we're very grateful for the recognition and look forward to coming up with ways to support literacy with that money, and very proud of our students. That's great. Students at SCES who stay safe, own their actions, are always responsible, and respect everyone. That's our acronym for SOAR, can earn SOAR tickets for recognition. And when they do get a ticket, then they can put a marble in a jar for their grade span, and then earn something special when that jar is full. And students bring tickets home to show their parents. Students have been really excited about this as we are starting, and with that SOAR acronym, we apply it to all different spaces in the building. So in the first few days of school, students with their classes visit different stations, like this is what it's like to soar in the cafeteria or to soar on the playground, and created just those general expectations throughout the building. And then they've really embraced it and get excited about the acronym. This week, Mrs. Cruz is having class on the playground to speak with students about great ways to move while at recess, so going over rules of games and helping things get set up there. There is a spray-painted track of sorts around the playground, and so far our students have walked or run 85 miles in just this week alone. So that's pretty exciting when you think of the number of students and how much they're moving out there in PE classes and recess. And speaking of the playground, we're working to continue efforts to make improvements to the playground. So soon we're going to reconvene the committee that existed last year, evaluate our current progress and where we left off, and determine next steps. But that will happen toward the end of this month. And we just met a little bit ago, so those are our updates for this.
Moving on to SMH. Yes.
Okay, first of all, our student rep, I know, has been 2 meetings. Taylor Goodspeed, who did it last year, she had the volleyball game tonight, and we are in the process of, when the student council meets, we're gonna have an alternate, and so that will be taken care of by our student council. Just happened opening volleyball game tonight, so that's why she's not. You know, as Mrs. Reed said, we just met, but the big news, which might sound silly, but the cell phones have not been, I even hesitate to say, have not been an issue even a little bit. No parent issues, no kid issues, and so the kids, we've Sharon, I thought it would be good, it's even better than I thought. They have been phenomenal, I think it's a couple of things, they trust things, they also know that, there's pieces where we'll get the information to them, there's pieces where if they need to come in and there's a really, real reason they need to use it, they know that they can come in and do that, and it'd be great, they've come in a couple of times and, they've had a conflict and they need to get a hold of somebody and they know the answer's gonna be yes, but it's been very smooth right now. We've actually had fewer problems than, last year we actually had kids violating the policy. This year, I think the fact that it's a law, kind of been, a couple of kids that drove in and said, you just scared us, we don't even dare take them out. But, it's been very good. Great start to the school year. The teachers have been on it. Mr. White, the custodians, one of the things we did really early is we looked at the desks, and we have the old triangle desks, and we were short a couple, and, you can just see them, they're putting them together and getting them in the rooms, and, everybody's been pretty good. Our hiccup, which we knew, is that we have a long-term, absence for math, and we're using Khan Academy, and there's some hiccups to that. I think we'll work through them. The students overall are doing pretty well. Ms. Barton, who's a math teacher, is going to be doing the inputting of the grades, so that gives us the kids somebody they can see right there. But we're working through this. This is new for us. Kids have been great. They've been emailing. Usually I'll tell them, you get some kids who are used to getting really good grades, and they won't be good right now. And I'm like, you'll be okay. You just do what you're supposed to. We'll fix it. And I think again they're good because they trust that we'll fix it when it comes to that. That's been a hiccup that we typically wouldn't have. Sports teams are in swing. The teachers are getting their goals going. It's a busy year, but it's good. Kids are doing really well, and teachers are doing really well to start the year.
I brought up that Khan Academy thing last week and talked to a couple of the kids about it, and they all said it's just a different way, and
Yeah.
it's week 2, and it's okay. And I thought about it more, and it's good for them to learn because these are mostly juniors and seniors.
Well, so is what's normal at our school, right? So our math teacher has 5 different preps.
Right.
So the calculus is a senior, the pre-calculus are juniors, but there's a pre-algebra class with freshmen, which is smaller, geometry with some freshmen. So it runs the gamut a little bit.
And I think a little bit of it's good for them to know when you go to college, you're going to have to manage a little bit on your own, and it's a good experience to try it. And we've got some safeguards around it, and they're finding those. They're finding. Ask a kid who took it last year. I have 2 kids in my house. I'm like, ask each other. Don't ask me, first of all. I don't want to help. But it's a good push for them, and they know it's not forever, which I think is huge. So thank you for all you guys have done for that. I know that's not fun.
But it's when it's done, I think we'll see some positives out of it.
Yeah.
When you're going through the difficulties, it's hard to see that sometimes.
Yeah, agreed. Awesome.
Superintendent updates?
Thank you. I will hopefully be very brief. Again, the second wing principals continue to be off to a great start. Can't say enough about just everyone that works here, from our food service people to our custodians to our bus drivers, paraeducators, teachers. People are just so committed to ensuring that things are done right and that students have positive experiences. And if there are issues or things that pop up, we address them pretty quickly and we take care of them when we move forward. And that's just nice to see in a district and that community feel that we have. So, got an email from the new school board chair from Unity last week. Folks may remember last year you asked me to reach out. Unity was splitting off of this from Claremont's SAU. They're actually splitting beginning of next year. They're taking this year to transition. I asked you if I could reach out, see if they had interest. They would like to have a conversation with me regarding SAU services and what that may look like. And so I just wanted to make sure from a board standpoint that before I had that conversation that I still had that permission to go forward. They're writing an RFP. This would be more of probably looking at potential SPED services, potential business services, maybe technology, and superintendent. So more full SAU, not just superintendent. So if you guys are still amenable, I'll continue to have that conversation and bring some information back to you to see if that's something that perhaps we look to pursue, depending on what that scope of work is for potential those people in those departments.
What grades grades do they go to? One K through 6? or-
Sean, help me, they go K-8?
They go K-8, but then one of the difficulties can be, right, they're K-8, but then they splinter off to a number of high schools, and so, again, both a superintendent, especially education, there is work, there's not work until there is work, right? And then there's work that can come from that, even though it might be a 10th grader who's not in school. But the actual unit school is K-8.
So they will maintain the K through 8.
They don't maintain their school rights, it's not nothing to do with tuition or anything like that, just SAU services. And so prior to this, Claremont had their SAU services. Again, I don't know what that fully looked like. The Rocco said he would send me an RFP. I actually had a few other people reach out to me this morning that were attorneys and said, let us know if there's anything questions we can answer. And I just be interested in just seeing the level of services that they're looking for to make sure that's something I feel like we could do.
And touching back in with like John and, everybody still feels like they have capacity now that, we're getting a little bigger too and.
Yeah, I think that's really the question, man, right? So once I figure out, do you need our special ed services? Oh, no, we have a coordinator and we don't need, oh, okay, great. Oh, we have a payroll person, we don't need that. Oh, okay, what are those services actually look like?
So it can cherry pick a little bit.
Yeah, once we dig in a little bit. I'll continue just to say, Sean was talking about desks, and it's nice that we continue to provide, I think some of the best things that we can get for our students and our teachers and our community. Things are expensive, and so the desks that we were just talking about, we did a great job. We ordered the desks, we ordered the chairs, and I know we were a little tight in the budget, and so we didn't order the wheels. So John just told me to buy wheels. There are 4 wheels that come to a box. That only takes 3. They're $75 for 4 wheels. I'm like, okay, so all in all, it was a $1,500 bill that's going to be to put wheels on the desk that we bought. So that's just an example of sort of the expensive things, right? I mean, wheels shouldn't be necessarily $75 for 4 wheels, but they are. And at some point in time, we will get those wheels and they go on the desk and our classrooms are standardized. But I also think it's an important piece to recognize that as things get expensive, Kelly and the business department continue to do a great job at managing and overseeing our funds. We get audited every year. We share that audit with the school board. We know that times are tough when we're held accountable to a $14 million budget, ensuring that it's spent wisely and accurately, ensuring that our federal money and our state money and grant money and any other money that we're receiving is accounted for and reported accurately. And just, again, credit Kelly and the business department for doing that and ensuring year after year after year by going through an audit process that gets done. And that's it.
Moving on to school board topics, tuition 26-27, and this is what we learned at the last meeting. We're going to start a conversation about to look at our thoughts on charging Rivertown's tuition.
So I'll just real quickly, you have the information there, and I'll go into bits and pieces of it. But one of the things that I think is important, we've been taking tuition students for a while. We certainly have been able to bring in a good amount of revenue with those tuition students. We talked a little bit about open enrollment, potentially picked up steam last year, almost passed, did not. Open enrollment is still in the books. I provided you with that policy, that law that is currently on the books and the additions that were to it. The addition for us this year is we have to set a number in our budget of potentially what open enrollment would mean for expenditure and revenue, and that's a pretty simple process as a wash. But how that then goes back and relates to tuition students, the state right now says you can charge up to 80% of the sending district's cost per pupil. And so what I did is I went in and took the most current cost per pupil found on the Department of Education site, and I highlighted the schools that are close to us, and then and I wrote in pencil sort of what that 80% mark would be if we charged the full 80%. So just for a record, the state average cost per pupil is $21,500. I did some rounding, so the 80% of that would be $17,236. So, but if you go through, you can see that based upon the schools that we currently have tuition agreements and tuition from, really 80% of Leinster's 22.4 is about $18,000. And that would be the full 80%. The law also says you don't have to charge up to 80%, and why I think that's an important piece to this conversation. I know through my association now, one of the things that small schools are worried about, and all schools to some degree, and us included in that conversation, what happens to my school if, so Sotheby's cost per pupil, Sotheby's 80%, as you see, is about $25,000. So at 8 kids, that's $200,000 walking out the door. At 8 kids, depending on specifically where those kids came from, let's even call it just out of the middle high school, nothing changes, but $200,000 walk out the door. And so, while it's great to continue to drive revenue, I think it's also to be cognizant of our surrounding communities and the impact that something like an open enrollment piece of legislation could have on somebody's budget and could have on their community. And wanting to maintain, I think, some positive relationships throughout the state, and you don't want to be the, oh, we'll just take your kids type of school district. That's why I did those averages. So again, at that 18,000, we're at 16.5 now. So I thought if we could come somewhere for you, if at any point in time we have well into October to make a decision, you wanted to change your tuition to the following year, I would think somewhere between your 16.5 and your 18,000 would be a place to move it, if you moved it at all. That if open enrollment moved in, you've cut everyone a little bit of a break, you've left yourself a viable option, you're not going to topple any specific school district by charging up to that 80%, which again could be $22,000, $24,000, $25,000. I think it's a conversation that you and the board have to think about a little bit. We don't know what the legislation is going to do. Like they tried last year. Legislation was resident meant resident of New Hampshire, and student meant any public school. Was it private school too, Linda? Was it just? I think it was just public school, right? Just public school you could attend. There were no boundaries if you. So if you live in Plymouth, you want to come to Sunapee, great, come to Sunapee. What we would have to do is set a threshold of how many open enrollment kids we would take by grade level and by school, and then certain criteria as far as if we fail, we can meet the needs of a specific child coming in, sort of as we do now with our tuition agreement. Special ed would stay with the sending school, which is other whole area that will need to be worked out through some other legislation because it violates a little bit about IDEA and things like that. But I think it's worth you as a board having a conversation or just hearing information regarding tuition and open enrollment, because I think we're going to continue to hear more of it. One of the things that we continue to hear around our tuition was that we're subsidizing, some of these families are subsidizing the educational experience for kids that are tuition by only charging kids $16,000 when our cost per pupil is $30,000. We're paying for those kids that come here and get an education. Certainly, one could make an argument on that, but I also think we have to look at our budget as a whole, because our tuition kids don't cost us a lot of pieces of our budget. For example, tuition, a lot of tuition kids, any sped services are billed back to those districts. So in our budget, we have $2.1 million worth of sped services. Those sped services are billed back. So that's not, those tuition kids are not impacting that $2.1 million. We have almost a 500,000 transportation line. Students from tuition students do not access our transportation line. They don't come to and from school. Buildings and grounds, we just look at like heat and electricity and things like that. There's over $1 million there of potential things that can be taken out. So we're almost talking about $5 million that is on our budget that is never even touched by tuition fees. And so that $14 million budget now becomes almost a $10 million budget. And so when we start thinking about how we're charging kids, we want to be careful that, well, charging the full 35. We know if we charge families $35,000 right now, I would say 98% of the families that are here are going to go, I can't afford $14,000, $15,000 to continue to send my child. But if we look at it, well, they're not truly taxing our full budget. They're only taxing in minimally taxing parts of our budget. Again, we don't turn every other light off because 20 kids left. We don't dismantle the teacher because we had second graders, because we still have 2 classes full of 16. So I'm just kind of trying to give you a bigger perspective of not only tuition kids, potential open enrollment, that impact on our budget, or that minimal impact on our budget. And let's not forget, I think that really the important piece about the tuition kids, they enhance our school, they enhance our curriculums for our students in Sunapee. They keep Sunapee programs up and running that Sunapee students thrive and continue to be able to access. And it has been a really nice source of revenue for this community to help offset our tax rate by unintended fund balance going back to the district, back to the town every year to offset tax, excuse me. So that's a lot, I know. And I would like you, if you had questions, to ask them, or things you need to know more about, or would like to know more about.
What's the tuition rate for employees? Does employee-
Quarter of the 16.5 or 16. So it's 4 and.
Okay, so that's that number next to the 15,000, 16,000 for,
Yes.
Yes.
When did tuition start? When did some of you actually start to?
So, Deegan, since you are the longest seated faculty member, do you recall?
I mean, I recall there always being tuition students.
Just always. Yeah.
We're always students from Goshen Leinster, like when I was here, so. it's going
I'm
back a
just
little bit.
curious, because I was a tuition student from back in 1989.
Yeah.
There you
I'm just curious how long
go. Yeah.
it's been. One of the things that jumps into my thought process is some members of the community are constantly screaming that we need to be charging the $30,000, but I don't know if they understand the ramifications of that, because if we look at every year, we have a very large majority of our community that wants a school. And one of the things that concerns me is that majority of those people, whether they have students here at school, whether they went to school here and they're in their 60s or 70s now, but still have a feeling for the school because they were here, is if we put the tuition up to a point that we drive 80 kids out of here, I think potentially even without those 80 kids, this community would still vote this school in. And as a taxpayer, I don't want to lose the revenue that we're gaining from these students. Because again, I feel through being on this board as many years as I have, the cost is the cost to keep these doors open. The 80 students do not affect us in a way that we have to pay more money to teach our students and kids. So as we as a board are looking at the tuition, I do feel that we are low, but I don't, at this point, because of the open enrollment, we don't know what direction the state is going. My feeling right now is to continue relatively close to what we're doing until we learn more about the direction of the state with tuition. 10 kids is, $160,000. The taxpayers are gonna have to make up that $160,000 again, because I just have a feeling that this community is committed to keeping the school here, and whether we get that 1.5 million or whatever it is or not, as a taxpayer, I'm concerned that then my taxes are going to increase when they didn't need to. So as a board, I think that's something we really need to think about.
So on the chart that you have where it has employees of the district's parent paid, so the students that are parent paid, do they come from other districts? They must come from other districts, and then, so their district doesn't support them at all?
Correct.
So they get perhaps a scholarship or the EFA, the Education Freedom Account money, which probably is what, about total 8,000 maybe, if the two are added together, 8,000-9,000?
Great, hitting that on the head there, Linda. So, if we have actually parents that would qualify for EFAs, and they apply for them, and they use the EFA money they pay us and they get reimbursed by the EFA, which is $4,600, $4,500, right? So it's about a walk.
But they can get other money for.
Yeah.
Special.
Right. For being special ed or what's
So
happening.
sometimes it's closer to 5,000
Yep.
is the average.
And right now, you know, one of the things that we've had in our contract prior to myself getting here, policy prior to myself getting here, was that allowing the quarter of a rate for employees, children to attend here. And again, the benefit of that is people aren't rushing to get home, not rushing to catch their kid at the school bus, more involved in extracurricular activity, more importantly involved for student aftercare, you know, after support for kids in the classroom and before school as well. So it's kind of a win-win-win all the way around.
So so back to the parent pay, I'm not sure where they're coming from. Are they,
Wherever they may live. So they could come from Andover, they could come from Lebanon, they could come from Concord, they could come from any town that parent happens to reside in, that we've employed.
okay,
They have the right to come here for the quarter.
so the parent pay part is usually an employee,
Yes.
okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry, I took that wrong. Employee pay is the one below, that's the one I'm speaking of.
Yeah.
Parent pay is strictly paid out of pocket by the parent. So they could come from Newbury, Newport, Lebanon, Grantham. They've made a decision, the parent to send their child here, and they pay that full 16.5 out of pocket.
And whatever they're gonna get.
If they apply for and qualify for it. I'm sorry, when I was
Okay.
employee and parent.
And I know that's a small number, but we've talked about it before too, of, you know, can we grandfather things in? Can we, if we're gonna keep raising tuition, if you sign up as a freshman and we want you to stay here, we don't wanna keep raising it every 4 years, and by the time you graduate, and, you know, not that big. I went to Catholic school, and it was like by the time you got to the 4th kid, they were like 3, you know, so we can't do that obviously, but how do we really be aware of our families to make sure that we're taking care of them?
Yeah, I think there's two pieces of that. Like Ed said, I think there's a piece of seeing where legislature goes,
Yeah.
because there's an unfortunate part of open enrollment, which is if the legislature says it's open enrollment, you can charge up to 80%. People are going to charge 80%. In little small towns, I'm going to use Goshen for an example because they're not on the list. They're going to be forced to pay. So you don't have a choice, right? But what is that doing to that community? And that's that other sort of look that we have to be cognizant of. But is there a way to say if you came in before open enrollment, maybe the tuition exists, and if this open enrollment comes in, here's our new tuition based upon open enrollment. But I think because cost of people for the most part will always gain, I think it's always important for the board periodically to go back. You have to set it every year anyhow, whether you change it or not. I believe over the last 5 years, maybe we changed it twice. I think I can recall. Hasn't been a lot. So you guys are pretty consistent in acknowledging just that. Like we don't want to price people out.
I believe at a board, we can make those choices, right, if we want grandfather.
Yeah, you can set your tuition rates any way you want.
So we'd be able to sit down as a board and discuss that, so the student or all this stuff doesn't have to be included.
Yeah.
This is all last year.
How does the state money filter through all this? The adequacy?
Sure, so adequacy, because we're collecting tuition, adequacy goes back to the sending district, right? So we don't collect their adequacy.
So that the ones where parents pay, if those students are in another district.
So that adequacy money's staying with that district.
Okay,
Yeah, it's not going, doesn't follow the child.
okay.
And I do think like it is, it could be an exciting time for tuition in Sunapee. I think that we're gonna have a lot of interest as things continue to develop in surrounding communities, and there's a lot of movement happening in all the districts around us, and I appreciate you saying we need to keep those communities in mind too. Like this is not the time for us to, you know, take advantage of anything. I think that's important to keep in mind. We're talking about kids. Like, so how do we get kids where they need to be?
And I think also, like, let's, again, not get ourselves like kids potentially don't want to leave. I would hope other people, because we have one of the highest cost per people in the state. So if you go grab a couple of Sunapee kids at $25,000 a kid, wow, you're doing pretty good. Sean Hurts.
I just wanted to share, because one thing that's changed a lot, we used to get a lot of parent pay, right? We get Goshen, you know, we get our Goshen, we get our Croydon, we get our Munster. We have, a typical year, I would have 1 or 2 parent paid. We have 12.
Wow.
So with 12 parent paid right now, I have a breakdown of all the towns as well.
Wow.
So,
And I think that could be a trend that continues.
Yeah, and in some cases, like, you know, I think a positive is we have some kids who've gone to private school and they choose here over private school. In some cases, they're saving money. But in some cases where they just want a smaller environment. It's not necessarily a knock on the school that they're at. Sometimes they're just in a larger district, they want a smaller school, and their choice becomes smaller school like Sunapee or private school, and they're opting more options for Sunapee on that. But again, typically we have 12 parent paid right now at the middle high school.
Do they typically come and stay? I mean, have you had kind of like school surfing, where they come and then they leave for, leave for a cheaper?
I don't think we typically have a lot of kids that leave. This year was probably the first year that we've had some kids either decide to go back to a private school, a parochial school, or just say, you know what, I'm gonna go over here instead. But typically, once kids get here, they stay. Yeah.
You are, I kept thinking like, why would a kid leave Sunapee? And a kid might leave Sunapee because they wanna play football, because they wanna be in the band, because like there are these things that we don't have, which is more than fair. That just connected in my brain, it's like, oh, that could happen, yeah,
Where the parents move?
right, totally.
All right, moving on to action items, looking for a motion to approve the proposed appendix E 25-26 positions.
I'll make a motion to approve the proposed appendix E 2526 positions.
I'll second that.
Questions? Comments?
Great.
All those in favor?
Okay.
No opposed. Information items, opening days.
I think we've had enough of that. We're doing well, continue to do well, and continue to have a solid open, so we can move on to the next meeting.
Next meeting, October 1st, 2025.
Yep.
Moving on to manifest, looking for a motion to approve manifest as written.
Make a motion to approve manifests as written.
I'll second.
Questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Agenda items for next meeting. I think we're gonna continue to discuss tuition. Do you have anything else, Chuck?
We'll have your October 1 enrollment, and we'll also have some of the budget calendar for you.
Excellent.
Can I just go back to the other thing? It seems like things worked all right with the water issue.
Yeah, I mean, yes, you have to be very strategic depending on where you're coming from. You can either walk, which is always helpful and good, or you can hopefully look down and see road closed, road closed. And typically you can see that by the girls laying in the back of the trunk with their feet up in the air with the sign. But they've been great, they've been very accommodating, and they turned the schools over, I think a week ago, they turned the SAU over sometime last week during the middle of the day. Really didn't have any interruption to us, and so far so good.
No request to go in the non-public, so I don't see any other matters of business. Looking for a motion to adjourn.
I will motion to adjourn.
All those in favor?
Thank you.